The sooner we do this, the sooner we have beer.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank you all for hanging in here for the LEAG SBAG Town Hall. This is the 8th time we've had a LEAG Town Hall here at NOSI/Survey Forum. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sam Lawrence. I am the Vice Chair of LEAG. You may remember me from other advisory groups, especially the cartography one, but I'm no longer the head of the cartography program. Now I'm only the LEAG Vice Chair. And Professor Neal sends his regards. I spoke with him this morning. He wishes he could be here, but one of the nice things about a clear chain of command is that when you have a capable deputy, he can step in and actually do this sort of stuff. So I'm here today to give you an overview of what LEAG has been up to working for you lately. The first thing I would really like to point out, and Noah emphasized this on the first day of the meeting, is that LRO has been selected again for another extended mission, which is fantastic. We have an exhibit at the Air and Space Museum, which highlights imagery from the first 6 years of the LRO mission. And so if you have a chance to be in Washington, D.C., I would strongly encourage all of you to go see it. It really does show the moon the way it really is, as a resource-rich world full of wonder and opportunity. All right, so we had earlier this year a very successful workshop for the New Views of the Moon 2 initiative. I was too young to go to the first set of New Views of the Moon meetings, but I was immensely gratified to see the enthusiastic community response to the new initiative. It was really just a wonderful thing to see, and especially considering where lunar science was not even a decade ago, it was amazing. And so it was just really heartening to see that. The next workshop is we're trying to be very inclusive of our international friends in this initiative. So Professor Heisinger has offered to host the next workshop, which will be in May of 2017 in Münster, Germany, so that we can have a full representation and participation from our international friends. We are currently digesting the results of the workshop, and we're still actively soliciting people to help participate in chapters, and the chapter leads are going to be going out and contacting co-authors, and we're trying to do this one a little bit faster than the last book. So the last book took around, I think it was 6 years, cradle to grave, so this time we're trying to do this in about 3 years. So that is the goal there. So stay tuned. This is a work in progress. Okay, other things. We already completed, I should say, a special action team about geologic astronaut training. Jake Bleacher and Dean Epler were the co-chairs. This was delivered to HEOMD and the astronaut office in March of this year. So that was a useful activity. We are currently, as Victoria mentioned earlier today, in the process of reviewing and revising the strategic knowledge gaps for lunar exploration. One of the things that is falling out of this group, out of this revision, is just how important LRO has been and continues to be in retiring strategic knowledge gaps. Some of the ones that were still open as of 6 years ago have now been largely retired, which is good. And it will surprise no one in this room to hear that one of the findings of this activity will be there are no strategic knowledge gaps precluding human lunar exploration at this time, but there are some which would enhance future lunar activities and make them even more economical, sustainable, and affordable. So those are the things we are attempting to highlight with this activity. The report is due to HEOMD on September 1st, and we're making really good progress. At this point, I will point out, so Chip Shear is leading the process, Bill Farrell is leading one of the themes, I am leading one of the themes, and John Gruner is leading the third theme. Okay. This is a reasonably recent initiative. We are working on a lunar technology roadmap, which has been requested to highlight what initial technological investments are needed in order to support the lunar exploration roadmap and the global exploration roadmap. It may include robotic precursor missions, but the focus on this activity is on enabling technologies to prepare humans to go to the moon. Lunar resources will be critical for the next phase of lunar exploration, not only for reduction of launch mass, but also for developing viable and enduring commercial on-ramps for involvement. The co-chairs of this activity are David Lawrence from the Applied Physics Lab and George Kramer from the Lunar and Planetary Institute. They are working towards finishing a first draft by December 1st of 2016, and they are actively soliciting community input. So if you have input for this capabilities roadmap, I encourage you to contact Dr. Kramer directly. And her email is up here, and you can also find it on the LPI's webpage. Okay, we also had, we are working really hard to bring in next generation researchers and help them become leaders of the community. We had a very successful LEAG NGLSE networking gathering at the LPSC this year. It was Wednesday evening and unfortunately conflicted with the Women in Planetary Science event. We do listen to viewer feedback, so we're doing what we can to mitigate that for next year. So we heard you. We also had a LEAG town hall on Wednesday. We are currently engaging in a human exploration proving ground specific action team. Mark Jernigan and Clive Neal are the co-chairs. The objective of this activity is to provide science objectives for potential activities in cislunar space. And the goal for this is to deliver the report to JSC at the end of September. Okay, so let's talk about the LEAG annual meeting. It's going to be November 1st through 3rd at the same venue as last year at USRA headquarters in Columbia, Maryland. The meeting goals are 3 of them. The first is to fully integrate the perspectives and interests of the different stakeholders, both science and engineering, government, and the private sector, to develop and embrace the common goals of lunar exploration. We are going to be trying to use the results of recent lunar missions to examine how science enables exploration. And we're going to provide a forum for community updates and input into the issues that affect the community. So more or less the same things we do at every LEAG meeting. But for this one, we're trying something different this year. We're having 5 separate themes for the meeting. They are commercial space opportunities. We embrace commercial space. We'd like as many commercial providers to come to this meeting as possible. So if you're a new space or any sort of commercial entity, please come to the meeting. We're going to be continuing the discussions that began at the New Views of the Moon 2 workshop in terms of new views of lunar regolith. How do we integrate results from recent lunar missions and then develop a new understanding in context with the Apollo samples of the lunar regolith and its resource potential. New lunar mission concepts. I will say this, that the lunar community did not acquit itself well in the last round of discovery calls. We need to do better. So one of the things we'd like to do at this next meeting is try to give, instruments and mission teams the chance to socialize their concepts and put them in contact with each other so that for the next discovery call, we get more than 2 missions submitted. So this community, because the moon is and remains the closest, most accessible target for exploration. And the fact we only had 2 discovery missions submitted for the last call was kind of sad. There's really no other way to put that. So we need to do better. We're going to be discussing, we actually want to get community input on the Lunar Capabilities Roadmap. And so, this will, hopefully by that point, the draft will be done. I mean, HOPE is not a management tool, but the draft should be done by that point. And we'll be able to get, hopefully people will be able to offer constructive comments on what the draft is and feed into it. And finally, there's this recent concept from our friends at ESA called about the Moon Village. This is an interesting thing for LEAG, and so we're going to be trying to have some sessions and speakers that describe this concept in more detail and give the U.S. planetary science community a chance to sort of take a look and think about it. So each session is going to be based around fundamental questions with time for discussion in a workshop format. We're going to have more time for discussion this year than in previous years. So it should be a very interesting meeting, and it should be good. So the abstract deadline is Thursday, August 25th at 5 p.m. in Central Daylight Time. And like I said, it's going to be the 1st through 3rd of November. Now, last year, we inadvertently scheduled the LEAG meeting for the week that LDAP proposals were due. So we very specifically have scheduled this one to be after the LDAP deadline so that hopefully we'll get more LDAP submissions this year. So like I said, we are listening. Okay, so with that, I'll stop gabbing, and you guys can try, ask me any questions you may have or provide any feedback at this point. A thunderous silence filled the room. I've answered all of your possible questions. Hi, Dana.
Hi. I just want to go on about what you were saying about the discovery missions. And, we're in a situation where to propose a discovery mission, you have to have, an institution that's going to propose it. And some of management and institutions don't think that lunar missions have a possibility of winning, and they don't want to spend their money to do it. And so no missions get submitted. And then they say, see, nothing was selected. We were right. So it's like a self-fulfilling cycle that we need to break.
That's right. But at the last Planetary Science Subcommittee meeting, Jim Green specifically said he wants more lunar missions. So, I don't think we can't make it any more clear than that. So yeah, you're right. This is an issue, but Isaac Newton will trump the day, I think, in this case. James.
So I just want to say for the New Views meeting in Munster in 2017, that's going to be alongside the next European Lunar Symposium meeting, which will be at the same time in the same place. And the European Lunar Symposium meeting, if you haven't been, is I think it's an awesome meeting. It's a great community in Europe, which is growing at this meeting is about 20% larger every year. So I just suggest that you come along and enjoy it. It'll be a good meeting. Yeah, I had a question for the discussions you're having on the cislunar proving ground and science objectives for missions there. What kind of science objectives are being discussed? What kind of mission concepts are being looked at?
The honest answer, James, is I'm not actually involved with that one, even though it's being run at JSC. So I can't give you any specifics, but the idea is, in general, to see what science across all disciplines could be enabled by activities in cislunar space. So that includes things like, it's a very broad thing. So it could include activities on the lunar surface done by international partners. It could do precursor missions to do resource prospecting. It could do material science experiments, astronomy. It really is going to be, the idea is to be all-inclusive and encompass a variety of things that you could do. So beyond that, I honestly don't know what the answer would be. But that report will be interesting reading for sure. I look forward to seeing it.
The reason I ask is because there's also a chapter in the science white paper that's been produced for ISEG-G.
That's right.
Which is also about science you would do in a cislunar deep space habitat, and it's also probably got the same authors. So
yeah.
I was interested to know what was being discussed here.
That's right, yeah, for sure. Thanks. Anybody else? Okay, well, I'll stop gabbing and I'll let Dan deliver the SBAG speech. Thanks very much for listening.
Okay, thanks for staying after to the bitter end of this of these presentations. I'm part of the steering committee of SBAG, and what we try to do is represent a broad swath of interest in small bodies, including small bodies of the outer solar system. So it's really a community-based operation. Tim Swindle is the new chair. And we're always interested in people to join us in the steering committee, because it's a self-renewing group, and I'm going to be rotating off next year, and there will be the three Bs will be Bauer, Berhaus, and Britt will be rotating off in 1 year, so we'll need to be replaced. So I urge people in this room to consider joining SBAG and joining the steering committee. We just had the 15th SBAG meeting in Laurel, Maryland. All of our doings were made accessible via the web and recorded by our friends at Survey, so the presentations are available online, and you can certainly refer to them at any time. We have the link there. Highlights of the meeting. Well, one of the things we did was we went over NIAC awards related to small bodies. There are 9 presentations there of some interesting technology. Also, mission presentations on ARM, Rosetta, New Horizons, because New Horizons has now gone from being a dwarf planet mission to a small bodies mission because it's going to fly by a Kuiper Belt small body. Also Dawn, Hayabusa 2, IATA, and OREX. A nice presentation from Lindley on the NEO program and also from Victoria, and HEMO small bodies activities and the mitigation studies. What we do is we generate findings which we think represent the opinion of the community and transmit those to NASA and to relevant players. And this time around, I just have a selection of the findings because we're trying to be an activist organization that states what we think are the best direction for small bodies programs. Part of this is that we reiterate the importance of a strong discovery program and a strong cadence for discovery. We support ARM and the science that ARM can potentially do. We're concerned about Arecibo, and we urge NSF and NASA to work together to make sure that we preserve the capabilities of Arecibo, because we think that's a critical asset for the scientific and security interests of the United States. And we're also encouraging a Rosetta data analysis program. I'll show a few slides. Victoria showed this already, but basically this is the bread and butter of SBAG and the Small Bodies program, is discovering and then being able to mitigate small bodies that wander by and whack into Earth. I like this one because it turned out that the close approaches that we have in 2016, discovered close approaches, are running at double the rate that we discovered in 2015. And the top 4 of these are close approaches closer than geosynchronous orbits, including one that was between 20 and 50 meters. So that would have produced a wonderful bolide if it had been a little closer. And so all of these are within, these are all within 1 lunar distance. And some are pretty big. This is what was referred to as the measles plot. These are bolide events in the last 22 years. As you can see, they're fairly randomly spaced. And size of the measle represents energy. So you're constantly getting things that are in the fair gigajoule range in the atmosphere at a pretty regular pace. The interesting thing is that we now have a quasi-moon for the Earth. This is a detection back in April of an asteroid that essentially is co-orbiting in near space and librating around the Earth, Earth's orbit, about somewhere between, I'm trying to remember what it is, 30 and 60 moon orbits away. And so it could be a fairly accessible target in the future. What we're doing right now is working on an SBAG's goals document, and we have 3 groups working on this. Small Bodies, Big Science, Planetary Defense, and Human Exploration. So Paul is leading Goal 3. And there are several people that are at this meeting that are involved in this. And so the future, mark your calendars now. The 16th SBAG meeting will be in January in Tucson, and then the 17th in Greenbelt in June 13th through 15th. All are invited. All are urged to participate and consider volunteering for the steering committee. That way you can get input into the goals and findings for SBAG. Thank you very much. Questions, or I'm keeping everyone from beer?
I have something I wanted to ask the ARM people, but since you brought it up yourself, that quasi-satellite that we discovered that co-orbits Earth, is that something that the ARM team has looked at, or that would make a feasible target that's close by?
So it's not an ARM target. It's a little too small for that type of thing. For an ARM target, we have to have a size that's in the 100-meter class or bigger, and has evidence of boulders on it. However, it does present an interesting target for a future spacecraft mission. So we're looking at it maybe from the standpoint of potentially doing a study to see if we can get a precursor to it, and then from there we'll decide and see. But it is an attractive target with a relatively low delta V for maybe a future human mission.
Just to add to that, it's besides its size being outside of the range that we're looking at, the biggest problem is it's just far enough away that we can't get good radar on it. So we don't have information about its spin rate, whether there are boulders present on the surface to confirm the inference of that. Unfortunately, it's always there every year, but it's a little bit too far away.
And I'll throw one more thing out for early career people, is that SBAG funds travel for early career people to the meeting. So watch the website, and you'll have a chance to apply for early career funding by proposal. And we funded, I think, 4 early career people this last meeting. So please consider us. Well, no more? In that case, I will use the chair's prerogative and suggest everybody go get a beer.